Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to give you a brief rundown on how the immune system works as soon as that stupid bicycle goes away. Ugh, it's still going. It's still going. I can still hear it. It's a nuisance. All right, so immune system, right? So the immune system, as you probably know, is responsible for fighting off pathogens that cause us harm. Right? So when bad things get into our body, our immune system tries to kill it. Or in the case of a virus, because it's not actually alive, tries to neutralize it and stop it from doing the bad things that it's going to do. Right? And so the first line of defense that we have, right, is just to keep the bad things out. If we keep the bad things out, they can't make us sick. Obviously, our skin plays a huge role in this, right? The outer layer of our skin is impermeable, right? If we get like water and stuff on our skin, it doesn't go into our skin, it doesn't come out of our skin. Nice tight junction layer, keeping the bad things out. Other parts of our body that are involved in keeping bad things out are like our mucous membranes, like in the back of our throat, in the back of our nose, right? In our ears, we have mechanisms that make wax so that baddies can't get into our orifices that way. But if something does get into our body, if a bad thing, a bacteria or a virus does make its way into our blood, we have mechanisms to try to kill those things. Right? And so the first response that we have is a non-specific response. Our body just knows that something bad is there, and this is a fast, get at it, try to resolve it type of mechanism. Right? And so we have specific cells called mast cells that are triggered by foreign things in our system. And when they sense those foreign things, they release histamines, which are a chemical that trigger inflammation. Inflammation is the response that gives us a fever. Right? It increases blood flow to a space. Right? So inflammation is also triggered when we're injured. So if you think of like if you hit your hand, right, and you get that big red welt before it bruises, right? That's a type of inflammation. You got a cut with an infection, right? That warmness, that swollenness, that's inflammation. Right? That rush of chemicals and blood to that area to try to resolve this issue is our inflammation response. We also have non-specific phagocytes floating around in our blood that will engulf and basically eat bad things. Right? So those are our non-specific responses. Bad stuff gets in, we start inflammation, and maybe hopefully our phagocytes can take care of it. If that response is not enough, we have a secondary response. It's a not complicated, more complex, cooler response, right? It's a specific response. And so in this case, we have specific cells. It's a genre of cells called lymphocytes. Right? And their job is to identify and murder bad things in our body. And so the bad things we're going to call pathogens. That's a generic term for the bad thing. It could be a bacteria, it could be a virus, just a bad thing in our body. Right? These pathogens have specific pieces on them that they use as part of their own life function that our cells can use to identify them as being bad things. Right? They have pieces that we don't have. Our human cells don't have those pieces because they don't do bacteria things. Right? Our human cells aren't doing bacteria things. We don't need bacteria pieces. So these specific pieces that our body can identify as being other, as being bad, are called antigens. Okay? And so in this model, these little sticks with the triangles on them, they represent the antigens. Okay? So one of our cell types, our macrophage, right, comes along and it sees this baddie and he eats them up, gobbles them up, gobble, 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 gobble. Okay? He breaks down that pathogen and he takes those antigens and he puts them on his own cell membrane, okay, with a little vesicle around it that says, hey, these are antigens. Okay. So this is my macrophage wearing those antigen hairstyles. Very cool, very stylish. Okay. Another set of lymphocytes called T cells sees these very cool antigens and is like, oh, I want one of those. Okay. So the T cell comes along, plucks off that antigen package from the macrophage, and starts wearing it himself. Okay. So here's my T cell wearing that antigen. Okay. The T cell can be a helper T cell, in which case he brings that antigen over to a B cell. Okay. He's delivering that antigen to this B cell right here. He's a helper T cell. Or he can become a memory T cell, where he just kind of hangs out, really doesn't do much. He just holds on to these antigens for the future. Okay. So if he's a helper T cell, he's going to be presenting this really cool antigen to this B cell. And the B cell is like, ooh, I don't like that antigen. I don't like that at all. I don't ever want to see that again. I hate those guys so much. If I ever see those guys, I'm going to be like, ugh. And so he makes antibodies. The B cells make antibodies, which are basically a complementary shape to the antigen. Right? So if my antigen is a triangle, 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 right? Then my antibody fits on that triangle. Right? So the B cell, like the T cell, can become a memory B cell, who's just going to go hang around for a while, just float around, not really doing much, but just holds on to the antibodies for the future. Okay. Or he can become a plasma cell. And the plasma cells mass produce these antibodies. And they just pump them out into the bloodstream. Boom, 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 boom. Spit them everywhere. Right. So now, when I have my plasma cells releasing all these antibodies are floating around in my blood all over the place. Right. The antibodies are now going to go over to the pathogens, which are floating around our blood, and stick to the pathogen's antigens. Right? So the antigen is the actual part of the pathogen. Right? It's part of it, piece of him. Right? Like it could be my arms. Like if I was a pathogen, my antigen might be my arms. Right? And so then my antibody is going to stick on my hand and just cling on like that and not let go. Right? And so now I got this antibody stuck on me. I'm like, get off, I can't. It's stuck. Right? And then finally, the payoff, okay, is we have these killer lymphocytes whose job it is to destroy pathogens. Right? So he's like, yo, I see that antibody. I'm going to go kill that pathogen. So he sees the antibody. He knows he has to kill this guy, and that's what he does. He kills him. Boom. Pathogen gone. Human healed. Problem solved. We live another day. That's it. Immune system. Bye.